Hello and welcome to a special episode of PC Building Simulator. In this episode, we're going to build the most expensive PC you can build right now in version 1.13. So sitting on the workbench in front of us here, this is the previous most expensive build. We're going to outdo that one, at least by a little bit. A lot of the parts are going to be the same because they haven't added very many incredibly expensive parts to the game, unfortunately. But in this new one, we're going to do things a little bit different than we did in this older one. However, we're going to use the same case. And if you remember from the previous video, if you've seen it, we used the Threadripper 3990X. Obviously, that is still by far the most expensive CPU in the game, so we're going to continue using that. But before we get started, I want to say a thank you to all the new subs. It's great having you guys here. And if you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, you should hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get started. Let's come over here to this empty workbench and let's grab a case. We need the Inyo by Ragentech. There are some other cases in this same $500 price point. However, they don't hold dual reservoirs. So that's the main reason we're using this case, is the availability of dual reservoirs, as well as how many, the sheer number of radiators that this case holds. So to get started, I want to start off with the custom water cooling parts, just to go ahead and get those in here. So we're going to install two of these Alpha Cool 250 millimeter reservoirs, and they both will mount right here. So let's get two of those installed. Then let me get all the radiators in here. Let's go to radiators. We're going to be using mostly Corsair, and their biggest one down here, the XR7 480. So we're going to put one here in the front. We'll let that thing automatically screw itself in. We're going to put one up here at the top. And if you notice, these are the thick boys. The big old thick radiators. All right, we're going to put one down here at the bottom. So there's three. We're going to come around to this side of the case. We're going to install one back here. And then there's room for a radiator right here. However, we need the most expensive radiators, and the one that's going to be the most expensive that will fit there is actually from Ragentech. And it is the Calor C360D. So we're going to install that one right there. So yeah, 5 radiators. 4 of them are 480 mil, very thick, very, very thick radiators. All right, now let's get on with the PC parts. So we need a motherboard. We're going to go with the Asus ROG Zenith, and not just any Zenith, the Zenith 2 Extreme Alpha. So let's get that installed. Then we need to get this thing ready for our CPU, as well as 8 sticks of RAM. Now, in the old most expensive build, we had 8 sticks of 4800 megahertz Trident Z RAM. However, now we have RAM that is even more expensive than the 4800 megahertz stuff, and it is from HyperX. It is the HyperX Fury. It's the 32 gig 3600 megahertz. So this stuff right here, we're going to go with 8 sticks of this. It's $455 a stick. So we need 8 of those. I'm going to go ahead and get all of those installed. There's half. Whoops. See if we can get these in the right spot here. Oh man, this is so much RAM. I believe that's 256 gigs of RAM. That is way more RAM than a normal user would ever ever need. Ever. All right. Let's grab our CPU. Let's do fits this PC. We're obviously doing the 3990X, which is $3,990. By far the most expensive CPU in this game. Now, I want to get this thing ready because we need to add some NVMe drives. So let's come over here to storage. We're going to use the Patriot Viper VP 4100 2 terabyte because they are $500 a piece. And we can fit 4 of them in this motherboard. So 2 go under this. And then if you look over here, there's a little pop-out card where we can add 2 more, 1 on each side of the card. There we go. So there's $2,000 worth of NVMe drive. And then that's not enough storage. We need to add more. Let's clear this out. We're going to use 4 of the Corsair LE200s. The 960 gig version here. And if you look, let me scroll down here. Those are $350 a pop. The most expensive SSD, standard SSD, in the game. This case will hold 4 of them down here behind this radiator. So we're going to get all of those installed. I don't know why they're so expensive, because they're just standard SSDs. But hey, I mean, I guess, you know, maybe it's just because it's Corsair. It's just that good. I don't know. So I got some thermal paste put on the CPU. I want to get the water block on there. And the most expensive water block for this in the game is this Ragentech CWB TR4 RBW. So there we go. And here it is right here, $420 for that CPU block. So this thing's coming together. We need a power supply to power this beast up. And what other power supply are we going to pick but the most expensive one in the game, the Master Watt Maker 1200. This thing is $999. And this case in real life can actually hold 2 power supplies. In this game, though, it only holds the 1. If it could hold 2, we could add a whole nother $999 to this build. This thing's an absolute beast, and if anybody wants to build this in real life, take a picture of it and post it, and send me the link, please. I would love to see somebody build this monster. All right, so we have just a little bit more to go. Doesn't take a whole lot of time to actually put this together. It's the piping and cabling that take forever, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But before I do, let's get some graphics cards in here. Let's clear that out. We want the water-cooled GPUs. We want the 3090s, obviously, and the most expensive 3090s in the game are the EVGA RTX 3090 for the Win 3 Ultra Hydro Copper Gaming. I believe these were $2,000 a pop. Let's double check. Let's scroll down here. Yeah, $2,000 a piece. Now, unfortunately, this motherboard does not space these out properly. So when I put this second one in, we're going to get that terrible Band-Aid of an SLI bridge instead of the nice one. But it doesn't really matter because we're really just going for cost here. We're just going for cost. So the final thing that we need to install to push this over the limit are some case fans. And the most expensive case fans in this game are the GamerStorm MF 120s. And we can fit 4 of them in the front of this case right down here at the bottom. We're going to install 4 of these. And that is going to take us up to our max for this build of $21,400. $79. Now, obviously, there's still piping that needs to get done, and there's still cabling that needs to get done, and that I'm going to do off camera because it takes forever. And in the previous video where I built the one that I showed you at the beginning of this episode, I actually show how to cable it, and I show how to pipe it. So I'm not going to put you guys through that again. What I'm going to do is put a link up in the upper right-hand corner to the previous most expensive build. And if you want to know how to build one of these for yourself and how to cable and how to pipe it, the link will be up there, and you can go watch that video where I talk about in depth how to cable this, because that is by far the hardest part. Piping, a little bit of a pain. You've got to run some pipes through these holes here, and it's a little hard to get them to line up. But cabling requires a whole nother level of cabling things up, removing fans, doing more cabling, adding fans back, and then every time you start up the game and want to use this PC, it's going to say you have missing cables, and you're going to have to recable it every stinking time. I don't know why. Something must be broken because it works, but only while you stay in the game. So all that being said, check the link up in the upper right-hand corner for how to cable this. I'm going to step away. I'm going to get this all piped up and cabled, and I will be right back. All right. So I've gotten this thing all cabled up, all piped, and I got some coolant installed as well. Haven't turned it on yet, though. So waiting for you guys. So let's power this up. Let's see if this thing works. I'm going to hop into the BIOS real quick. I definitely want to turn on XMP so we can get our 3400 megahertz. And I haven't decided yet if I'm going to overclock this thing. I know the last one I did, the CPU doesn't overclock all that great. The graphics card's overclocked pretty good. I don't really know if it matters if we overclock it, because really we're just going for the most expensive build. But I did want to turn on XMP. We may run a 3D Mark test just to see what the baseline score is for this. But let's go ahead and apply these changes. Oops, actually, before I do that, we need a USB drive, because we need an operating system. So now let's let this thing restart. We'll let it install the operating system nice and fast. Let me go ahead. Let's get the lighting app on here. And 3D Mark for sure. Maybe, let's go ahead. We'll install it just in case I decide to overclock. Let's let this thing reboot though. I need to change some colors for sure. I want everything to be cyan. The last one we did was that, if you can see it over there, it's that like bright purpley color. I like cyan so much better. So let's go here. Let's just select everything. Can I? Oh, that was poo. That was poo. I thought it was just gonna let me go ahead and have cyan right then and there. That seems a little bit bright. That seems a little bit bright to me. I doubt I'm going to be able to make it totally match what's in the reservoirs, but at least it's close. At least it's close. All right, so I'm going to close that out. Then I want to get a 3D Mark running because I'm curious as to what we pull for a score. And while that one's running, I'm actually going to get 3D Mark running on this system as well, because I just want to see if it's gone up any. Now, this one is overclocked, so I'm curious if the one we just built is going to beat this one out, even though we didn't overclock anything. This one also has much faster RAM, like by a whole lot. It's got 4800 megahertz RAM in there. I want to say it was running at 4733. So much faster RAM. But yeah, I'm going to let both of these run, and as soon as I have a score on both of them, I'll come back and we can compare. All right, so 3D Mark is done. Here's what we got on the new build. We got 25050. Nothing overclocked except for running XMP on the RAM. That's a decent score. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Now let's come over here to the previous one. And, well, we got a higher CPU test just because we've got the faster RAM. Just because of the faster RAM. But the overall score is still lower, so the 3090s are still better than a couple of 2080 Ti's, so that's always good to know. Let's take a look at it without the UI in the way. I think this thing turned out real nice. Actually, let's get that off the screen. I think it turned out real nice. I know it doesn't have a glass side panel on this side, and you'll see why in a minute. They are incredibly reflective and kind of take away from some of the aesthetic of the build. But I am going to slap it on just so you guys can see what the thing looks like all complete. But yeah, this is the new most expensive build for version 1.13. So let's grab our side panel, slap that on. You can see how much it kind of takes away. We can see all the stuff on the wall and back behind. It's just incredibly, incredibly reflective. So yeah, again, if you want to know how to cable this up and how to pipe this, I will put a link down in the description to the previous video where I show how to completely cable and pipe this thing, because it is a nightmare. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you get notified as soon as a video goes live. Also, if you want to help support me, it'd be greatly appreciated. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. There's also a join button next to the subscribe button. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe out there, guys. And I will see you in the next episode.